It wasn't until Emperor Constantine, who signed the Edict of Milan in 312 AD that allowed for the tolerance of Christianity, that the persecution really came to an end. Now, the world at large traditionally sees this as the best thing that could ever have happened to Christianity, but I'm going to suggest it wasn't. You see, while many believe this was the pivotal moment in Christian history that allowed it to settle and grow and to become the largest religion in the world, the evidence suggests that firstly, Constantine only legalized Christianity for political reasons, and that his own supposed conversion wasn't truly sincere. For example, there is evidence to show that Constantine still retained many elements of sun worship even after his supposed conversion, and that there have been reports of secret Vatican files that prove he kept his allegiance to the sun god. Coins carrying his image from this period continue to portray him as Sole Invicto Comet, which means colleague of the invincible sun. Then there is the fact that he changed the traditional Sabbath day of God, which was Saturday, to the now generally accepted Sunday, or Sun God Day. Constantine's personal life also reflected the theory that he hadn't ever truly converted to Christianity, or understood its message. He became a cruel and dissolute monarch, whose cruelty extended to members of his own family. He was also clearly corrupted by his fortune. If we judge the tree by its fruits, we would reasonably conclude that he remained untouched by the love of Christ until the end. The truth is that there was such uproar and division in the Roman Empire at the time that its unity was beginning to be threatened. If the unity of Rome was threatened, so was Constantine's grip on power. So politically speaking, it made sense to change tack from Plan B tactics, oppression, violence and persecution regarding the Christians, to Plan A tactics, which is manipulation and flattery. That's effectively what happened here. The persecution, if anything, was making the Christians stronger, so from Constantine onwards, the persecution and killing stopped, and instead Christian leaders were manipulated and lured with promises of wealth and power. Constantine basically appealed to the vanity and pride of the bishops of the time. He went on a charm offensive, and bestowed a number of favours on the church. Instead of martyring bishops, he began to treat them as his political aides, and gave them a say in his empire's political affairs. They were raised to a high rank and given a life of great opulence in the imperial city. Very naturally and predictably, signs of worldliness appeared amongst them, like pursuit of luxury and personal ambition. Error and corruption began entering the church, and a focus on wealth acquisition crept in. They forgot Jesus' pronouncement that his kingdom is not of this world in John 18:36, and soon became double-minded. One of the main reasons we should suspect Constantine never truly converted was that he failed to relinquish his inherited title of Supreme Pontiff, or High Priest, that had first been assumed by Julius Caesar. Constantine therefore remained the official earthly head of the mysteries throughout his life. It wasn't until 376 AD that the young Emperor Gratian became the first to refuse the position of Supreme Pontiff, considering it inconsistent with faith in Christ. In addition, he also legally abolished paganism in the empire at this time, although this abolition didn't extend to the city of Rome itself, where it was still rampant. In fact, Rome at this time was colloquially referred to as the sink of all superstitions. After Gratian refused the office of Supreme Pontiff or High Priest, it became vacant once more, and the links in the chain that had gone back to Nimrod were broken, but only for 2 years. It was soon reinstated to Damascus, the then Bishop of Rome, who had gained the position after much fighting and bloodshed with rivals. This position of Supreme Pontiff has been held by the Bishop of Rome ever since. The Bishop of Rome is better known today as the Pope, and therefore the Catholic Pope is still the head of the mysteries of Babylon and its pagan offshoots today. If we follow this to its logical conclusion, as shocking as this may sound, the Pope is therefore still the earthly head of Satan's system of worship. Stanley's History on page 40 says, "The popes fill the place of the vacant emperors at Rome, inheriting their power, their prestige, and their titles from paganism." Pope Damascus recognized the power inherent in his new title. He believed himself to be head over not just the Christian church, but also over the pagans in Rome. It meant complete authority and domination, both the secular and sacred under one system. How is the Roman Church to consolidate this rule over the pagans and the Christians under one system? They needed to somehow iron out the differences between the Babylonian system and the Christian system to create a unity between all peoples, and that meant compromise. What the Catholic Church did was consistently compromise the gospel message with pre-existing pagan beliefs and adapted it based on whatever form of Babylonian mysticism a culture held to. Now, compromising the truth with different types of lies is like mixing ice cream with different types of dirt. At the end of the day, all you're left with is dirt. So while the average historian will explain that from 378 AD onwards, within 50 years, the spread of Christianity had completely vanquished paganism in Rome, that's not what happened. Paganism had not vanished. At the beginning of the 5th century, it had simply been absorbed into Roman Catholicism, which now contained all manner of superstitious rites and ceremonies inherited from Babylon. Pagan doctrines, rites and symbols were incorporated into the church and merely covered with a facade of Christianity. It was this, and not an outpouring of the Spirit, that brought a multitude of pagan worshippers into the Church of Rome. Catholicism basically became paganism with a Christian mask. It was after this time that the words of warning given by the Apostle Paul to Timothy began to be fulfilled. The Spirit clearly says that in later times some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teachings come through hypocritical liars whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron. They forbid people to marry and order them to abstain from certain foods, which God created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and who know the truth. Celibacy, compulsory fasting, idolatry and baptismal regeneration and many other false ideas quickly became the accepted doctrines of the Church. I'll give you an example of what I mean. One of the main differences between Christianity and paganism was that Christianity was monotheistic while paganism was polytheistic. Trying to get the pagans to give up their multiple gods proved tricky, and so, in order to merge the two systems, the Roman Church began to suggest the idea of patron saints. In effect, what they said was, you don't need to stop praying to all these various gods and goddesses, all you have to do is call them by a new name. Instead of a god of the travellers, we'll appoint a saint of the travellers. Instead of a god of the sea, there is now a saint for seafarers, etc. So where there had previously been a pagan god or goddess assigned to aspects of daily life in the mystery system, the Catholic Church merely replaced these gods with saints who were to be prayed to, revered and looked to for guidance instead. Because many people had carved idols of gods and goddesses in their house, they weren't asked to discard them completely, but just to revere them under a new name and identity. All the many pictures and images that existed because of the mother and child cults of the day, and which originally represented Semiramis and Tammuz, were simply renamed Mother Mary and Christ. The paganism was not removed, it was just given a makeover. Another problem for effecting change was the festivals of the day. People's years were marked by religious holidays much like our own are today. Imagine trying to get everyone in the world to give up Christmas next year. It would be a nearly insurmountable task. People love their holidays. The Catholic Church decided that instead of abandoning the old pagan holidays, they would simply adopt them under a new meaning. The winter solstice festival called Saturnalia, or the Feast of Saturn in Rome, occurred in the week prior to the 25th of December, and the day itself was called Natalis Invictis Solis, which means the birthday of the unconquered sun. Indeed, 25th of December was widely regarded by all Babylonian religions to be the birthday of Nimrod. It's a date that crops up frequently. In Egypt, Isis, who is the equivalent of Ashtoreth, and who was worshipped as the Queen of Heaven, was said to be born on this date also. So what did the Catholics do? Effectively, they said, keep your festival, but let's just adopt it as the birthday of Jesus Christ instead. Similarly, the spring equinox festival for the goddess of fertility, associated with regeneration, was adopted as Easter. The name Astarte or Ishtar became Easter in Gaelic, and it's from this name that we get the word Easter. Eggs that originally represented fertility were Christianized as a representation of the stone that was rolled away from the front of Jesus' tomb. It was also as a result of merging Babylon with the Church that the idea of Lent was introduced. Lent has no biblical basis whatsoever, but was merely an essential part of the Babylonian spring festivals that Catholics adopted under a new meaning. In autumn there was a harvest festival that honoured the goddess Pomona, and this became Christianized as All Souls' Day, with All Saints' Day coming on the 1st of November to again honor the saints. It is better known today as Halloween, the night where evil is celebrated most overtly. As a night to honor the Catholic saints, it is effectively a night to honor demons. The practice of bobbing for apples originated with the celebration of Pomona, who was the goddess of fruit and trees. In this we may also see a link to the Tree of Knowledge. Can we say that bobbing for apples is a reenactment and celebration of the moment when Adam and Eve ate of that tree? As the Roman Empire spread to Celtic areas, where the mysteries had become Druidism, the date became a night to honor the god Samhain. Now note the similarity between the names Samhain and Satan. What this all adds up to is simply that when it was made legal in Rome, Catholicism did not Christianize the pagan religions, but that the reverse is true. The pagan religions polluted Christianity to produce Catholicism. Catholicism gradually became nothing more than the mystery religion with a Christian facade.